Hi, everyone, and thank you for joining the Empowered Mama Summit. Today, we have Laura Aguilera, who is an insurance agent, one of my best friends, and a mom to Demi and Diego, who are two of my favorites. Hi, Laura. Thank you so much for joining us.
Good morning.
Good morning. Will you tell the moms that are tuning in a little bit about what you do for work on your day-to-day basis?
So I'm an insurance agent, and I've been an insurance agent for about 12 years, and in the business for almost 20. And we protect lives and we protect people's personal belongings.
Awesome. And yes, what you do is so important. You know, homeowners insurance, renters insurance, life insurance, obviously, which we're going to get into a lot about today. And you know, I think that it's exactly that. You're protecting lives, you're protecting families, and it is awesome. On that note, right, in protecting lives and the things that we do on a day-to-day basis, right, what would this is the Empowered Mama Summit, and we're helping moms kind of reclaim their power, or just tune into it a little bit more, live with more purpose and intention, and create their legacy, which is kind of this ultimate thing that we leave in the world. But I want to know, like, what is your definition of legacy, or what does that mean to you?
So in my industry, legacy is basically an inheritance, in the most literal sense of the word. You're leaving your beneficiaries, whether it's property or money or whatever it is that you're doing. That's the way that traditionally our industry uses the term. For me, though, personally, it's more about what mark are you going to leave? What proof of love are you leaving for your the people that are most important to you, your family, your friends? Sometimes people want to leave that for an organization. So I've made it my mission to kind of help people define what that is, and give them the power to influence the change that they want to see happen even after they're gone. So it's pretty cool stuff.
I love that. And it's very interesting. So I do, more of the legal, like, paperwork part of it. Like, where do you want the money to go? Let's put us and protect it that way. But for you, a lot of, like I said, I'm going to kind of talk about life insurance mostly today, because that's one avenue that parents or, family members can use to still provide for their families once they are gone or upon their death. And that is the means to, distribute to a charity or whatever that is. So I think that, the life insurance, and the charitable giving and leaving that imprint essentially beyond the grave, right?
Mm-hmm.
Exactly. Film was maintaining this control once on, right? Able to provide, in a sense, for your family. And
it's empowerment. It's empowerment in every sense of the word. I think that we all want to be remembered for something that we did, or how we made someone feel. If we left it just a little bit easier for our future generation. And life insurance is one of those tools that for me it's not even, I call it love insurance. Like, when I talk to my clients, I say, do you have love insurance? And they look at me and go, I mean, it sounds a little gimmicky, but when they go home, and I hope that they think about it, they realize this is the only thing that they're going to do that they will not benefit from in real time. I mean, there are living benefits to life insurance, but in reality, most of the time, it's something that you leave for your loved ones. It's not something that you're going to really be able to see. But everything that you've put into it, whether it's the college that you wanted your kids to go to, or the wedding you wanted your child to have, or maybe the first house that they buy, you're going to be part of that, and that's huge. I mean, I don't think there's anything else that I do that gives me more satisfaction.
Yeah. And I love that because, as when my daughter was born, I started a life insurance for her probably like within a month after she was born, because I understand and know all of the things, besides that I have like 5 life insurance policies. So I know that if something happens to me, but, being a single mom, right? And essentially the sole breadwinner of my little family, I need to know that she's going to, and I know that I have family and I have friends that will love and support her as needed, but I wanted to know that if I couldn't be there emotionally, to like instill my values and raise her on my own, I want to be able to provide financially for her so she can live a comfortable life, do all of the things that I want for her, like travel or go to a great college or, just move out of the country, whatever it is, like she'll be able to do all of that on her own.
Exactly.
So it's a great tool. And you're absolutely right. It is, it is kind of like the selfless act. Like, it's very similar to what I do in that it, you don't really benefit and your family doesn't benefit until you're dead. But, I know that there's, there are some perks, while, like, and depending on the policies, and we won't get into that, but, that you can use it as a savings and use it for, wedding or down payments.
Oh,
and
yeah.
stuff.
Yeah. I mean, the more you understand the way insurance works, the more sophisticated some of the product offerings we have. But just the basic whole life policy is usually what I at least try to get people, started with.
Yeah.
Versus, do you want to insure the next 10 years or do you want to insure the rest of your life?
Yeah.
And even if it's not a huge amount, something's better than nothing.
Yeah.
One of the things, and I don't know, I wish I could give credit to where I heard this, but someone once said that they wanted to leave a mark, not a scar. And I think that's a really gentle human way to look at that too, because I've seen lots of families go through death, and the way they experience death and mourning and, all that comes with tragedy like that really does change when you have a product like this, a tool. It doesn't leave a scar. It leaves a mark. Without a doubt, it leaves a mark because you're never, ever going to be that same person. But from that point forward, every time you access that money or every moment that they think, did she love me? Did she think about this? The answer is yeah, 150% yeah. I mean, it absolutely changes the way you grieve. So.
Yeah. There's so many pieces that I kind of want to like tap into. So one, it's like, this idea of when you go to use the money, right? I was just on a retreat and one of the women was like, I feel so guilty because I'm using inheritance money to travel and to do these retreats and to, run my business. And it's like, but that's what it was intended for. If you think back to the person's values, what did they want for you? And now they've been able to provide financially for you. And now you go on and live your life in a way that they would be like, yes, do it. Like go on all the trips.
Yeah. I mean, that's when I bought my first life insurance policy when I was 18, and I was only introduced to it because I worked in the business basically. And I didn't have any children. I mean, I bought it because it was something that I wanted to, before I sell something, I need to understand what it is. So I purchased it myself. And I thought, when he asked me, the life insurance person who wrote it for me, asked me, who do you want your beneficiaries to be? I thought, well, I don't have any kids. I mean, I guess my parents. And it was just kind of like a second guess. But then, as I grew a little older and understood, what I meant to my parents and what I symbolized as far as a daughter to them, helping them around the house, things that I didn't really quantify for myself even. It changed the way I looked at life insurance too, because we don't know our value. And my dreams and my hopes, even though they're my parents, were for them to retire beautifully one day, that they wouldn't have to worry about, if my daughter was here, they would help me, or, someone would be caring for me. And without that peace of mind, I thought, I wonder what would happen. I mean, I have a brother, he would help, but I have an idea of what I want that to look like. And if I'm not here, at least I have that. And that first policy is still, my parents are still the beneficiary of, because I never wanted that to change. If something happens to me, I still want to know that, they don't have to go to a home, or they don't have to sell their home to be able to get the medical attention they need or to be able to survive. Yeah. So we talked about this a little bit, but yeah, I want them to live, not to exist. And I think there's huge difference. And this is also kind of goes hand in hand with what we're talking about. Living with purpose and intent versus just letting things happen to you and being responsive to, our environment. And I know that's getting into a whole nother conversation, but it's all part of it. It's all connected. And I feel that when people understand this and they start to understand that living is the joy and the passion and the happiness and, all those moments, they go, hell yeah, I want that. I want to be able to control that. And like you said, the lady that was traveling in Paris or, felt guilty. That's terrible. I wish you would understand that. That's the whole purpose. Someone did that on purpose to make sure that they would be able to make those choices. So I hope she finds joy in that and knows that the person that did that for them wasn't their guilt.
Yeah. And one thing that I love is, and we've had conversations around this before, but the idea of purpose and intentional living, like why is it important that you live with purpose and all of that? And when you are either creating an estate plan, you are, getting life insurance policies or, donating to charitable, organizations, whatever it is, like that is all intentional because you want to protect and provide for your family. Why would you say it's important that people live on a day-to-day basis out of a place of intention and purpose?
It's empowering. For me, it's been very empowering. Living with intent and knowing that, understanding, because knowing, I think it puts a lot of pressure on yourself when you say, I know that I know that I know. But but creating an environment for yourself where you're empowered and you feel happy and at peace with the decisions that you're making. For me, that's intention. That you're living the truest form of yourself, and you're creating, a life that's just a little bit better. Like I said, for me, intent, I guess, is different for everyone. But for me, you want to leave the pile of wood a little higher, for the next person. Whether it's your children, whether it's your community, whether it's, the greater good, if you're Mother Teresa, you're able to impact change in that matter. But I think we take that for granted because it's like acts of love like this, when you're living with intention, is a ripple effect. And you may not know that you've affected that person as it gets further and further away from you, but it's there. You did it. It exists and it doesn't go away. And maybe it comes back 10, 15 years later, when someone walks up, I've had this happen. Someone walks up to me and go, you said this to me 10 years ago and it changed me. If you can do that, you've won. I mean, you're living a life with intention, whether you agree with it or not, whether you value it, you're doing it. So I think
I love that. I mean, right. I think that, shoot, I just forgot what I was going to say. Must my mama brain. But this is what it, this is going back being a mom. So that's what I want to, it's this idea of, our kids, right. And kind of pulling in, like being the mom and playing that role, which is very, very important, obviously, for everyone that is watching and that's a part of the summit. But it's this, our kids are always watching, right. Our kids are always watching, and somebody's always watching, right? So the things that you do on a day-to-day basis, the way that you live out your life, the way that you act, somebody's always watching, whether or not they notice it, whether or not they acknowledge it in the moment. Maybe it's 10 years down the line or 20 years down the line, you get a sweet text message from your kid saying, thanks, mom, like for setting the best example, of like what a strong woman could be, or, like what a great wife should be. So I think that that's important, like this idea that it may not always seem like people are watching or kind of acknowledging the things that you're doing, but the way that you're living out your life, like someone literally is watching, whether it's your kids, a neighbor, or a client. So I love that a lot.
And most of the time people don't remember the things that you say word for word, but they remember how you made them feel. Remember how maybe they were just in a moment of grief, or they were in a moment of depression, and you gave them light, you gave them hope, or you extended just a kind gesture, and they remember that. So our kids are our biggest mirror. I always say that. So if I want to do a self check, I look at my kids and okay, here's where we are. And you know, both of them want to be helpers. They both, when you ask them what they want to do, they always want to help, and they want to be agents of change, which thrills me like no tomorrow. So yeah, as moms, I think the empowerment comes when they see that you've worked so hard, and they've seen the acts of love that you've done for them. And sometimes, like I said, it's not instant gratification. It may be years before you actually see that or understand it in the way that they're giving you in their language. Giving you that feedback, because as you know, kids are very creative. But it's amazing, you know, the intent, the purpose. I mean, when you're in line with your spirit in that way, and your kids are in line and they're confident, it's just amazing. It's very gratifying.
And on still staying on this topic of purpose and intent, but would you say, I mean, based on our conversation, I would say that you believe that living with purpose and intent is important. Have you always lived in that way? And if not, like what was your turning point, or kind of like, you know, how did you get to like where you are today, and, you know, the beliefs that you have essentially?
Well, I want to say that I've always lived a life with intent and purpose, because I have great parents that set amazing examples of what that really meant, and how to love. Basically, it came down to that, how to love, and what unconditional, you know, love means. And even though they preached it, I think that it wasn't until after I graduated school and started my own, you know, business, had a couple failures, and failures aren't terrible to me anymore. Before, it was a judgment on myself, and now they're the biggest gifts. They really are. They've been the biggest gifts, because I've learned so much and I've grown so much from them. But I think when I grew the most was when I was tested, and I was broken down the most. And I think that it changed the way I defined living with purpose. Because before, it was, I mean, not that I was ever going to be rich and famous, but, you know, it was accepted ways of success, right? You know, you had your house, your car, your business, you know, you graduated. And when you have all of that, you still feel a little empty, or you feel like unfulfilled. You start to wonder, like, what did I do wrong? Or how can I be doing this differently? And for me, when I was broken down, when I was at my worst, that I became my best, because I was able to start from scratch. There was nothing to lose. And I started to, what formally Gabby Bernstein says, replace fear with love. Do that in very small ways, but for myself, little gifts. Like, I stopped talking down to myself. And that's a daily battle, but I keep myself in check. I started to see that the things that I thought held the most value in my life were actually at the bottom of my list when it really mattered. And the things that meant the most to me, I didn't give enough time and energy to. I wasn't feeding that side of my spirit. So I really feel like when I was broken down is when I became, I redefined what purpose meant, and I became more in line with what I wanted to be and how I wanted to, what I wanted to leave as an impact, you know? When people said, you know, Laura was here, this is what they felt, you know? It wasn't all this other, you know, stuff we get caught up with, and it was more about love. So back to my roots, and just acknowledge that the real proof of a legacy is love.
I think I think that's such a great check-in, you know, for those moms that are tuning in right now. Like, I think that is a great check-in for you to kind of go beyond the material things, right? Go beyond the degrees, go beyond, you know, the 6-figure income or whatever it is that you're currently striving for, and think about the things that you want to feel, like your core desires and like the things that you value the most, and make a list, like make this priority list of like, okay, what's important to you? And then, you know, talk to God, the universe, whatever it is, and figure out how you get to that feeling, which ultimately will get you to the dream job, the dream man, the dream house, whatever, the dream travel, you know, the dream lifestyle. But I think that that's important, you know, checking back into like, well, who am I and what's important to me?
I sat quietly for almost 3 months, which is the hardest thing for me to do if you know me. Sitting in silence and just literally retreating to myself and questioning, like, how do I like my eggs? You know?
Yeah. Yes.
What do I really enjoy? What about the ocean is it that I like? And I mean, I know they sound like silly questions when you're not in that moment, but I needed to know that I hadn't lost myself. That was one of the big things. And just getting to know myself again and accepting myself for everything that I was and everything that I wasn't was the first step for me. Sitting in silence, letting things happen, sometimes letting people take care of you, which is really hard for empowered mamas because it's a double-edged sword, and you know exactly what I mean. One of my most humbling experiences was allowing my family to take care of me. And for me, I mean, for them, they were so happy to do it, and it allowed them space to be in my life and to be important in my life. And I didn't realize that. At that moment, for me, it was very humbling because I felt like that was a failure. I needed somebody.
Yeah.
And when you're operating out of ego, that's your reaction. But when you're operating out of love, you're like, yes, I need someone. I need you. And being able to articulate that was really difficult when I was in that place. Because when we operate from ego, we judge, we do all the things we're not supposed to, we use words of self-hate and all that bad stuff. But when we operate out of a place of love, we're seeing this and we're like, wow, we are loved. Like, I mean something to someone, and they're helping me even though I can't give them anything in return. And then it comes grace, right? You accept it and you're in a state of grace. And that just changes. There's no way you can go through that and not be the same person.
Yeah. I think, you know, obviously, like, this is, you know, the Empowered Mama. Like, this is the Empowered Mama Summit. The women that are tuning in are ambitious, right? There's no doubt about it. And this idea of reclaiming your power, right, is not that you're weak or that, you know, there's something wrong with you, but it's this idea of that you just want to be more. You want to fully take charge of your life and stop, you know, living, you know, within like limitations or things that maybe society has placed on us as women, as mothers, and all of these like should roles. But what I think is important about what you're saying is that as moms, like, we do try to do it all, right? We're the matriarch, you know, I mean, there's no men watching, but I mean, the women run the household essentially, right? Like, the men may or may not be the sole breadwinner, but, you know, women are, I mean, if you think about it, right? The kids, they go to mom. Like, kids, you know, 90% of the time will go to mom. Like, they're the ones, you know, they're used to that, you know, that kind of setup. Whether or not, you know, the mom is working outside of the home, whether or not she's the main breadwinner, the kids still have that maternal instinct because, you know, we grew them for so long. But as moms, we will put ourselves on the back burner and we don't nourish ourselves or take that 10 minutes of silence in the morning before everyone's up to reflect and reconnect with ourselves. So, you know, it's like, I think about it, like, you're talking about 3 months and these questions, and they're not silly questions. Like, these are questions that I ask myself, like, when I can squeeze it in, right? But it's being intentional and taking those 10 minutes and be like, you know what, every morning, this is non-negotiable. I'm going to sit with myself for 10 minutes before I look at my phone, before I respond to emails, before I wake the kids up. and just tap into like myself and see like, what do I need today? Do I need a little bit of extra help and support? And can I still like go strong, and I'll save the support for another day? Like,
That's how I fill my bucket too. I mean, when I meditate, that's my exercise, my emotional and my spiritual exercise for being mindful.
Yeah.
And being mindful leads to living a life of less stress, less fear, less anxiety, less of all the negativity, because it allows you, even just taking deep breaths. Like a friend of mine demystified meditation for me, because I used to sit there and I was like, there's a freaking freeway in my head, you guys. I would turn around and everyone was like sitting there in such peace and harmony and love. And I'm like, how the hell? I have 880 over here, you know?
Yeah.
Like, I can't shut it off. What do I do? And I think one day she turned around and she looked at me. She saw this look of panic in my face. And after our yoga and meditation, she said, let's take a walk. So we talked about it, and she took me on a beach retreat where we just breathed. That was it. And she goes, you're meditating. I was like, yeah, I'm meditating. All right, I'm meditating. This feels good. But something as simple as just taking a deep breath, what it does physiologically to your body is amazing. I mean, even the kids do that. They'll start taking their belly breaths when they feel they're like, mom's losing control, kids losing control. Let's breathe.
Yeah. Yeah. I do that with my daughter too. Like she's freaking out. I'm like, okay, put your hand on your heart, close your eyes, take a deep breath. And, you know, we just get so much into our head that we forget to drop down lower into our body. Like, that's amazing.
That's soothing. Sometimes kids rock too. I don't know if you've noticed, children will rock because it's very soothing.
I was like, I think I rock.
I do. Kids and adults rock.
Yeah.
When we're standing in line, we do that too. You rock yourself. I think moms notice it a lot because it's a soothing exercise you do with your children.
Yeah.
The mindful meditation, you know, the breathing, the, you know, different levels. Because for me, I don't think there's one right way or wrong way to meditate.
Yeah.
However you find yourself doing that, whether it's over a cup of coffee or it's in complete silence in your bedroom before all the kids are up, or if it's on your way to work and you're just doing the deep breathing and releasing that, you know, breathing in positive, releasing the negative, whatever it is that you do, as long as you're doing it, even if it's 5 minutes, it changes your day completely.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. Okay. So if you had one tip for the moms who are feeling stuck, who are maybe trying to like, okay, figure out how to live more intentionally or purpose-filled lives, what would that be? Would it be to meditate, like to take those moments of silence, or do you have something else
that's your exercise? That's exercise. That's like walking and drinking water. You got to do it. Believe, act in spite of fear. Be gentle with yourself and others, because we don't know what everyone's going through. And I think we crash with each other sometimes as we're trying to run our lives and trying to be the best persons we can possibly be. You're already winning, you know, you're already ahead of the crowd just by believing that you are. But that unwavering faith, whatever it is, whether it's God, whether it's the universe, whether it's your spirit or energy, know that you're on the right path.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's the one thing you can know that you know. And be gentle with yourself and others. I think that's the one tip I would reiterate.
I love, like, be gentle, right? It's like that reminder, because we're always nitpicking ourselves, right? We're always like, oh, are we doing like the best job as a mom, as a wife, as a partner, you know, a sister, a daughter, whatever it is. And so being gentle, not kind of like nitpicking and like breaking ourselves apart, I think is like so important. And just knowing that whatever you're dealing with in this moment at this point in time is exactly where you're supposed to be. And, you know, like you said, that you're on the right path one way or another, and do some of that deep breathing, do some of that meditation. if you need more clarity and you need to reconnect with, you know, a lot of times the women that I work with, they're like, well, I used to be fun and exciting before I had kids. And it's like, you still are. You just have to reconnect and make a more intentional and conscious effort to reconnect with that woman.
And, you know, and the reality is that we are what we think we are, right? And before we've even thought it, we've experienced it in our mind.
Yeah.
And I don't know if that makes sense, but I think the clarity is the power to choose which way you see yourself. Yeah. And that basically reality happens in your mind.
Yeah.
And how you define that is what's important. Because life's going to happen and bad things sometimes are going to happen. But sometimes those things are gifts. And like I said, that's been my biggest lesson in my adult life, that even when I think everything, like the sky is falling, everything is falling.
Like, can it get any worse? Yeah.
Well, and that's the thing. You say, can it get any worse? And it does.
Yeah.
This is true.
With
100% certainty, it does. But the minute that you start to breathe, and you like you said, you sit deeper into yourself, you realize it's not that this is not as bad as it seems.
Yeah. And
your empowerment as a woman and as a human being is to choose. It's your choice. So yeah, your unwavering faith, believe. Oh, we've gone through a lot of stuff. I guess that was more than one time. But yeah, believe and redefining your reality.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much.
Receive. Yeah. That's the other important part.
Receive. Yeah.
Empowered mamas, you know, like I said,
yeah,
it's hard to receive, but that's one of the gifts.
Yeah.
By receiving, you also learn. And that's one of the things that I have to pay attention to, because you don't know what tomorrow holds. And we say we want these things, but then we're not open to receive them. So
yeah, this is true. So true. Yeah. Okay, ladies.
I'm so glad you're doing this. Thank you, Carmen.
You guys need to choose, you know, whether or not you're going to reconnect to that woman that you were, that you know, have kind of essentially, that you remember you were. Connect with her. You decide how you're going to live your life every day, whether or not it's going to be intentional or you're going to stay or go into autopilot. The choice is yours. The power is yours. Thank you, Laura, so much for being here. Thanks to all the women.
I'm grateful for you.
Oh, thank you.
Energy behind
it. Thank you. And we will see you guys in the next interview. Bye.
Bye.